always want to lead with an ACA plan or group health. Group health is going to require 2+. Now, husband and wife business, where they're both employees actually earning a salary through the business, can get a group. So 2+, you know. A lot of times, if it's a group with 2, 3, 4, 5 people, they'd still be better off to look at ACA and then maybe pivot into short-term medical or indemnity plans, right? So most of the time in these individual scenarios, we're leading with ACA, but it's income-based. So what happens when I have, someone is a household of 1 making $18K, is they qualify for a 0 premium plan with, really low out of pocket, and that's great, But then I have a household of 2 making, 35K, and they also qualify for that. But what happens when you have a household of 4 making 250K? They get hosed by this. Hosed. Because all of a sudden, their premium for that household of 4, none of their kids are going to qualify for CHIPS because their income's too high. And it don't even have to be 250K, because you're thinking, who makes 250K? Some people. Let's say it's 150K. Even at 150K, they're going to get hosed, right? So they're going to be paying $1,500, $2,000 a month for a premium on a plan with a $6,000 per person deductible. Something like that. That's just a generalization. But a lot of times now, if these people are really healthy and wealthy, then we can say, okay, we've offered this. They've rejected this premium because they're like $2,000 a month. That's crazy. Well, we could say, well, there are short-term major medical plans that you can get. Our primary short-term major medical carrier is Allstate. And Allstate, you can get, plans with, maybe they have $5,000 deductible. There's multiple plans on there, but a $5,000 deductible, that same family, probably somewhere around $1,000 a month. So still not cheap, but when they're looking at it, they're thinking, you know what, I'd rather save the money. But here's what are the limitations of short-term medical? Who can tell me a limitation of short-term medical?
1 year.
1 year at a time. So now with short-term, right now Biden is trying to, I don't know what'll happen. They were saying at one time he was trying to repeal the Trump era executive actions that made it where you could do 1 year at a time and bring it back down to 30 days. If they did that, when short-term medicals were in 30-day increments, it killed them for anybody that needed it for more than 30 days. What happened is during the Trump era, they signed an executive action that said a short-term medical could be for 1 year at a time. And so then these people started underwriting banded 1 year policies. Mostly, I think the most is 3 years on a banded 1 year policy. Underwritten at the time you got the first one. What's another limitation of a short-term major medical plan?
Existing conditions, right?
There's a fixed, pre-existing conditions is the biggest one. Pre-X. This is why I said healthy and wealthy. With ACA, there's no pre-X. They're not going to deny claims based on them having a condition beforehand, right? But with short-term medical, they can't. They can deny you the coverage. But here's the caveat that really is bad. If somebody is pretty healthy, and by pretty healthy, I mean they could be underwritten and get the plan, but there's still pre-existing condition clauses outside of just the underwriting. You guys, a lot of times, if you're used to writing a Medicare supplement, you write a Med Sup. What happens if it's approved?
Covers everything.
Covers it. It's covered, right? There is technically a concept called
2 year contestability.
there's a 2 year contestability period, and they can come back and end the coverage and refund the premiums. But we've written 40,000 Med Sups, and I've seen it happen twice, and one of them we got overturned. So it's very rare. But with short-term medical, they have a pre-existing condition period that entire time. So let's say somebody had gotten through underwriting, but they were taking 2 blood pressure medications. And then they, missed their blood pressure medication and had a heart attack. Well, they could kind of start making cases to not pay for some of those bills because it was related to some pre-existing condition. Now, it gets into lawyers like battling it, but it's a case we don't want, right? So when you guys write, we want to be able to write a short-term medical plan, but we want that short-term medical plan to be for very healthy and wealthy. I want them to be no medications, no heart surgery history, no stroke history, no diabetes, no pre-diabetes. They'll decline them on Allstate for taking metformin. So the underwriting will get most of those cases out, but you don't want somebody to slide through there or to like fudge underwriting because they will not pay the claim. And that's a big deal because we want coverage to pay the claim. Short-term medical, if they don't have a reason to not pay the claim, they'll pay the claim. But they have a pre-existing condition clause. So if they're really healthy, like who in here has never had a surgery and never had any who considers a perfectly healthy in here? Okay. Zach raised his hand. No, Zach, you got some
unhealthy one.
you got some people in here that have never been to the doctor and if you're making $100K and you're looking at Obamacare and you don't have a group health option, short-term medical would be a potential for you. Now, there are other things it's not going to cover. It doesn't cover general maternity coverage, right? It's made as a major medical, like the old school major medical, a catch me all. He brought up another limitation. It's going to cover like, is it 2 million in its coverage period?
It's a $5 million lifetime, and then you can pick.
And
There's a certain group of them that have an annual cap at like $2.5 million.
yeah, if you look at them, they'll have caps on how much they pay. They're high caps, so typically people are not going to outrun that. But then there are a group of them with a smaller maximum they'll pay a year. I think it'll go down like 250,000 if you get like the.
If you get the 100 plans, those are the better ones.
Yeah. If you get the 100 zero plans with lower deductibles, are going to have, the more expensive plans are going to have. If all of a sudden the price drops to like $250, look at the details because there might be like, oh, maybe they dropped it to $250,000 worth a year worth of coverage. Which still, if somebody accepts that, that's okay. There's some people that say, hey, I want a $10,000 deductible and $250,000 worth of coverage, and that's fine. And for most people, they would be fine if they're healthy and wealthy, like 99.9% of the time. But anyway, you need to understand those short-term medicals. They're not. It's not just a cheaper alternative to Obamacare for rich people. There are caveats.
You got the basic exclusions too that they had. Like they had just a list of exclusions.
Yes.
Neuromuscular hand surgery.
Yeah, that was I had one. I wrote one years ago to a guy. He was a farmer. He was. I wrote it like he was like 64 and a half. I write it. He's turning 65, and in between that 64 and a half and 65, he had like a month left, and he had injured his hand, and he needed some neuromuscular hand surgery. Thankfully, I was like, if we can put it off until you're on Medicare, you with your Plan G, you're going to pay your deductible and it's 100% paid for. But there was a caveat to a neuromuscular surgery in there, and people don't know that. And
they have a whole exclusions list that you can look up in the brochure.
now, another thing, with this particular policy, I know we can get kind of lackadaisical on how we do a signature option. A short-term medical plan written, the signature needs to be done on their IP address. What does that mean? It means send it to them and have them sign the thing because it has all those exclusions in it. If you sign it in here on your computer and then later on they sue you because it didn't pay something, then you don't really have proof that they signed it. You have where on your computer you typed it in. Medicare Advantage and Medicare Supplements, they're so good. Even though people be like, oh, Medicare Advantage is not as good. Well, it's not as good as a Plan F. Yeah, you got me, Jack. It ain't. On the medical side, anyway. But it's still very good. The exposure on Medicare Advantage is their maximum out of pocket. So if somebody sued you, it would be for $6,000. On short-term medical, only time we've ever had a client lawsuit years ago, it was me. I wrote them. It's a $110,000 claim that it was actually Golden Rule or United Healthcare got sued for it. But the lawyer said, hey, if we name Justin Brock party in the lawsuit, they'll keep the lawsuit in Mississippi because you're suing a Mississippi-based company too. So they wanted to keep the lawsuit, so they named me on there. What ended up happening, errors and omissions coverage followed it, and then Golden Rule eventually said, hey, we want to settle all our lawsuits and get them off the books for whatever reason. They were probably going through some SEC stuff, and they paid the guy. So it went away. Wasn't a big deal. I'm pretty open about it because I don't care. If you run enough business, eventually somebody will sue you for something stupid. Honestly, the guy that sued too, he really did lie on the health questions. One of them said, did you have you been treated for alcoholism in the last 5 years? And I asked him that, and he said no. Only problem, biggest mistake I made was he signed it in our office like I just described. He wasn't. So if you get a face-to-face signature on a short-term medical, they got a phone, text it to them or email it to them, and then pull their phone up and sign and help them sign it right there. But now it's on their IP address. You understand how that works? If it's on their IP address, they can't say, well, I didn't sign it. Okay, I never saw that. He never talked about that to me. But well, you pulled it up on your phone. So, okay. Indemnity plans. We used to write a lot of these. So if short-term medical goes back to 30-day increments, it's very difficult to write short-term medical for these people that don't qualify for ACA. And remember the whole time, guys, we want to write the ACA plan. We want to cross-sell with the ACA, hip, cancer, dental, vision, and hearing. But we'd rather write the ACA plan. It's hard to get sued on an ACA plan. It's like Medicare Advantage or MedSup. You know, somebody come in and be like, I had a $5,000 bill, and they're real upset about that. And I get that's a big deal. But to a company like us, a $5,000 misunderstanding isn't a big deal. A big deal is a $110,000 misunderstanding. Does that make sense? So ACA, we're always leading with it. That protects you a lot to lead with ACA. But when it gets to those people that are like, no, I don't want that. So we had one that was writing, I want something that's guaranteed renewable. She really said, I want something I can get it and I don't ever have to renew it until I turn 65. Well, the only thing that exists like that, ACA isn't even like that. ACA changes every year. So you're guaranteed to be able to get the next ACA plan that exists, but you're not guaranteed that it's going to be the same coverage. An indemnity plan is guaranteed. What's a pro of an indemnity plan, an indemnity health plan?
Pays you directly.
It will potentially pay you directly. It can pay a doctor or hospital. It can pay you directly. What's another pro of it? Benefit structure stays the same and it's guaranteed renewable as it sits for life. So the benefit does not change based on what has happened to someone. Okay? It doesn't change. The policy just can't change overnight. It's guaranteed renewal.
Never goes bad as long as you pay it.
As long as you pay your premium, never goes bad. Now, some of them will be guaranteed renewable to Medicare eligibility. So like Manhattan Life Affordable Choice is one that, that we've used in the past. These are very rich indemnity benefits. Indemnity benefit is also not, there's no network or usual and customary charges. You can, if it pays a set amount based on the billing code. If you have a knee replacement and that code is C24961, it's going to go in, it's going to use the Medicare fee schedule, and it's going to pay, depending on what level of affordable choice you get them, it's going to pay 2X, 3X, 4X, whatever of that code, like that amount. There's set fees that they'll pay.
Does everybody understand that fee schedule? Have y'all looked at that? So like when you sell the Elite, it says what Medicare pays times 2.5.
Yeah.
So you take what Medicare would pay, multiply 2.5, and that's what Elite would pay.
Yeah.
And every level is that way. You can look it up in the little chart.
I'll pull up at some point the affordable choice brochure and show you. I do not want this sold as a go-to. It is a backup. There are cases, if I sat down with 100, 165 customers, I could see probably 2 of them choosing this option. So I want you guys to learn it and be able to do it because it's a highly profitable scenario, but it's not something that you push on anybody. It's somebody that falls into that. You get somebody that's unwilling to pay $2,000 a month for ACA, and they don't like the short-term medical for whatever reason, or it goes back to 30 days, and they just want something, and you show them that indemnity plan and they like it. And again, this is a weird one because Manhattan Life's e-app actually just lets you type in the mother's maiden name and submit it. If you do that, it's better. We have a form. We need to get that form back out. It's called a non-ACA acknowledgement form. And it's acknowledging they're choosing a product that isn't ACA. And the reason we do that is because there are limitations to this product. Because it's an indemnity plan, there's a fixed amount they're going to pay. If the office that they go to charges more than that, then they have to pay the difference. They can be balance billed. If the office charges less than that, they still get the same amount. They get to keep the cash difference. You see what I'm saying? If you choose like an Affordable Choice Elite Plus plan, which is the highest level, and somebody goes into the hospital for one night, they are going to make money.
Yeah.
They're going to make they'll probably make a few $1,000s off of it. They're going to be like, this is the best plan ever. Now, if they get it and the first thing they use it for is, I'm going on kidney dialysis,
God.
you need to try to get them back on Obama. Then come back to them and be like, look, Obamacare is going to look a little sexier to you now. Because even though it's $2,000 a month, you're about to pay $74,000 a month for dialysis treatment. Indemnity plan has no dialysis benefit. That's when you look at cons, that's a gaping hole. There's no benefit for it. There are benefits for chemo and radiation on them. We think they're inadequate. So anytime if you were going to sell this plan, or even a short-term medical, or an ACA, I would try to sell cancer policy. But if you sell an indemnity plan, you want the biggest cancer policy you can sell. Lump sum. Now, also, when you're talking to somebody about using this option, one of the big people you run into, like people that like small families that own a auto body shop, and they're making $300,000 a year, and they're just like, man, I don't even hardly go to the doctor. I just want something if I go to the hospital. They'll like even refer to it like a hospital plan or something. You got to predate these things that existed before our time. You know, that's what they want because that's what they had years ago. Farmers like them, stuff like that. But when I'm selling this, you can call a hospital or a cash pay plan. You can tell them to go in and say, I don't have any insurance. What's the cost? So they call there like something like the surgery is $18,500. And this is like a small outpatient, like you'd be up in a day type of surgery. Might sting, but you'd be up. $18,500. And then here's what they said, oh, you have the Blue Cross plan. So the Blue Cross plan only allows us to charge $4,500 for the surgery. Now, first of all, what kind of horse shit is this? Who pays this? That's just a fake number. They just came up with it. It's a fake number. It's not real.
They're gonna write it up.
Because nobody pays this. Blue Cross only allows them to pay this, okay? And they like Blue Cross. So what does that tell me? Medicare probably only allows them to pay something like that. Medicare Advantage only allows them to pay something like that. Obamacare, Medicaid. Nobody's paying this. Even the people without insurance don't pay that. It's dumb. Then she says, well, you have a $1,250 deductible. You've met $383 of it. You have a $6,000 something maximum out of pocket on your group plan. So the amount that you're going to have to pay out of pocket is something like $1,250 remaining that I had to pay, right? And then she said, but at the time of the surgery, if you come in that day and you pay all of it, we're going to give you we're going to let you pay 75% of that. So even on top of it, my out of pocket was discounted 25%. So what I'm getting at is that's what they're doing with group health. That's what they're doing with any. So if you do cash price, if you say, I want the cash price because I don't have insurance. So this is somebody with an indemnity plan. If you have ACA or you have a Blue Cross or you have Medicare, or you have Medicare Advantage, you have Medicaid, then the network does that negotiating for you. But if you don't have insurance or you have an indemnity plan or even a short-term medical and you just wanted to say, I want the cash price, they're probably going to come in somewhere around that. They maybe even come in 75% of that cash price. They're going to be like, oh, it's going to be $3,200. Well, then you file it on your plan and it reimburses you. Let's say it reimburses them, $2,800. And they're out $400. They might have been out less than I was on my group plan. So this isn't an anti-insurance thing. What happened is insurance came along and they started peacocking their prices just so when the insurance says, well, if you're in network, we're going to pay you less than you asked for. So they just started asking for more and more and more so that less could creep up a little bit. Does that make sense?